concept is silly, ridiculous, it's a waste of time. They didn't want that's why they were so successful. That's why they got away.
Made a living in very dangerous.
This is really an integrated blue
Dianne Andrews in black and white.
Welcome to Dianne Andrews in Black and White, and I'm your host, Dianne Andrews. Thank you for joining us today, whether you're in our 3 million homes around Louisiana and Mississippi, including New Orleans, Lafayette, and Baton Rouge. We're on twice a week in New Orleans and Lafayette on television, and 3 times a week in Baton Rouge on television. You can watch us on our social media outlets, and the handles will be on the screen. Also, you can see us on YouTube. Please subscribe and become some of our followers, but I think we've maxed out on Facebook as far as the number of friends, so please become a follower of ours on Facebook. Today, I'm going to continue with what I started to do with the financial aspect of what's going on in the country now. We talked about it. We did 2 shows recently on COVID and the ramifications from that. As we know, we do have an election coming up. And who would know, right? You never hear anything about it, right? Hopefully they do have some live debates even in this world of COVID-19. But we're going to talk today on the purportedly, I guess, nominee. He's not the nominee until after the convention, I guess, is Vice President Joe Biden. We're going to talk about the $2 trillion infrastructure plan that he announced last week with climate control features in that. So I brought in 2 experts to talk to us about that today. One you already know, Pete Losavio, and another new guy I want you all to know. So come on back and find out who the new guy is, because he's a new friend. As you know, so many of my friends are on this show. Come on back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. Welcome back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. And as you see, we're trying to social distance here. So we have 2 financial people with us. You know Pete Losavio, the only certified elder attorney in the state of Louisiana, 500 in the country. He's also an attorney. He's a CPA and a CFP. And he was on in the last 2 shows, so I don't need to say too much about Pete here. You already know him if you keep up with Dianne Andrews in Black and White. But sitting next to him, I have a new friend. He is the owner and founder of Game Changers Tax Pro. And he's an investment advisor representative, and there's another word to that, but he'll talk to you about what he does. He also teaches continuing education units to CPAs, and he helps work with people to come in retirement to a tax-free income. So I need to talk to him about that, right? We all want a tax-free income, right? Used converting Roths and other things like that he's an expert on. So Jerry Leinbach.
Very good.
Did I get it? Okay.
One of the few people that do get it right.
Well, you had to tell me 2 or 3 times, so I should have it by now. But I'm so used to calling it the name that Americans call the composer, right?
That's right.
So tell us, we'll start with you, Jerry. This is a $2 trillion plan.
Yep.
Bernie Sanders is now on Joe Biden's team.
Yep.
AOC is running the climate control, and I do want to let everybody know I'm an independent. I like giving facts. Pete is a Democrat, and Jerry is a Republican. So the 2 of them, let's see if they come to the same conclusion, whether this is a job creator or whether it's a job killer, whether it's going to hurt the economy or help the economy over time. So let's see your opinions first, Jerry.
So this is basically, this plan raises tax revenues over 10 years of about just $3.8 trillion.
From taxing people more.
From taxing people more, right.
And that's everybody they're taxing more, just the
predominantly
wealthy.
People over 400,000, but this plan will come back and eventually affect the working class person because it's a job killer.
Right.
In fact, the GDP is expected to reduce somewhere in the neighborhood of at least 1.51%. and take with it about 550,000 jobs over the next 10 years or sooner.
Because of fossil fuels, what he's saying, and fossil fuels, you all come from the earth. There are coal, our oil, and our gas. And that is what we are built on in this state. Yep. Our neighboring states are also. and a lot, Oklahoma, and so many, Texas. I mean, so many. The economy, American economy is built on it. And as you mentioned to me, and I looked it up after we talked yesterday, Jerry, we're not the #1 culprit of coal in the world.
Correct.
That's China.
That's right.
And they're like double what we are. And no one ever says anything about coal. What do you think about that in China, Pete? And they want to talk about us with fossil fuels.
Well, you know, the United States has just become independent
Right.
of OPEC, Saudi Arabia,
That's right.
and Russia.
That's right. We talked about that on the last show. We're #1 producing oil.
So we're independent of that.
Right.
And for so many years, they had kind of a stranglehold on us.
Right.
And I think if this goes through, we're going to become dependent on China. And that's because China produces 95% of the rare earth elements in the world. And you say, well, what does that have to do with what we're talking about? Well, the rare earth elements are used in the solar panels and in the wind turbines.
And when you say rare earth elements, tell me exactly what that means to the audience.
Well, it's
not diamonds and sapphires and things like that right there in Africa. What is
well,
it?
it's the elements that they use in like cell phones and they use them in
Mostly, a lot of solar, as he alluded, the solar panels.
We were talking solar panels, okay.
Huge part of it.
And doesn't most of that come from China now?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Even now.
95% of it.
And we're going to need more worldwide.
And then if you go back and you look when Obama was president,
Right.
80% of our rare earth elements were coming from China. It's probably more than that
Do
today.
you remember that in solar panel company we invested in and we gave them all the money?
Solantra.
His
And they
plan
went
is,
out of business the next year, didn't they? And we lost, $1 billion or something?
It was taxpayer funded, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right, and that was under President
Obama. Nothing to show
Obama.
for it, nothing salvageable.
And we
His
never heard
plan-
anything about it.
His plan is more like Solyndra on steroids.
Really?
Yeah. And then,
Why did they go out of business?
well, the government did not protect the company.
The taxpayer, right?
Well, the company, because what happened is they were producing solar panels, and then our government let China introduce solar panels that were much cheaper, and they could not sell their solar panels because China was selling a cheaper solar. They were dumping solar panels here.
Right.
So they forced them out of business.
But we give another company $1 billion to produce solar panels that are going to be more expensive than China's.
Right, and then protected, and then they went into bankruptcy, and then I think a Chinese company came in and bought them for like 10 cents.
Pennies on the dollar.
Pennies on the
dollars. And what was not so bad that they bought this tremendous production factory here in this country, but they got all the technology.
Which, I think that the current administration, Trump and them, just tried to stop some people stealing our IP, intellectual property, over in Houston, right? Which they've been doing for years since Bill Clinton.
Yeah. But anyway, going back to the thing with the rare earth elements, you see, if we go through and we become dependent on...
So it's the same process over again. We're still dependent on somebody
If you close
else.
the jobs down, if you lose the jobs because they can't work because of this heavy regulation that he proposes, they largely shut down, not completely, but largely hamper all these job producing, income producing, high income producing jobs, not just in Louisiana.
Yeah, because he's talking about manufacturing jobs at $15 an hour, but we're talking about six-figure jobs, right?
What's not being talked about, as Peter's saying, is that it's going to kill jobs. Yeah. It's going to kill them.
I mean, how many people are dependent on oil, gas? I mean, we're #1 in gas in this state. What are we talking, 30, 40 million people, right?
Yeah. We're talking, well, in this state,
the country, we're talking 30, 40 million.
It's one of the highest producing incomes for the state.
Right, and you said last time that our books, our budget, depends on the price of oil. What does that do to the budget? Yeah, in the state of Louisiana, Pete.
Well, I mean, if they cut the oil production and all that, then, and then it's going to decrease jobs.
And Jerry, he's saying by 2035. How can you do this in 15 years?
It's actually going to be more like 10 years.
He said 2035.
Yeah, but I'm telling you that when he rolls out, first of all, let's be honest, he's got to get a House and a Senate to pass most of the
but the House is his.
tax.
The House
but
is
he
his.
can do a lot of things with the power of the pen.
That's right, executive orders, yeah.
So
and they say they may win the Senate.
That could have effect almost immediately. That could have effect almost immediately, where he could make it very difficult and punitive for these companies to do business. We'll lose jobs. It could happen very quickly, and then we're supposed to go to solar and renewable energy, which we're going to be very dependent on China, as Peter says.
Yeah, but
Again.
The point I really want to make is we don't want to be dependent on China.
No, we're 95% of our antibiotics are created there now.
Well, I mean, if you look
Medicines.
historically what's happened, you may remember this when I tell you about it, but in 2010, there was a Chinese trawler that collided with a Japanese Coast Guard vessel. And the Chinese retaliated by cutting the export of the rare earth elements to Japan and put a stranglehold on them. And then if you look recently...
So they're 90% of the world on rare earth elements. They're supplying to the world.
Yeah. Their strategy goes back a number of years ago.
Oh, yeah. It's been
and we're falling in line to their strategy.
And not just on this, on everything.
Yes.
But if you come to current, and you look at what's happened with the pandemic, when we started criticizing China about their treatment of the pandemic and about misinformation, the
World Health Organization,
the state-run news agency said that, look, if you don't stop criticizing us, we're going to stop shipping you the medical supplies you need. And not exactly the words, but they used the word hell. They said you will be in a hell of a pandemic.
Coronavirus hell, actually, was the word they used.
Coronavirus hell.
Who was that who said that, Pete?
That was the state-controlled news agency.
You're talking about in China. Oh, yeah. I thought you were saying.
And so...
but that's why we're producing it. Trump had the wherewithal to, enact the Defense Act. So what do you call that? Where 3M and Honeywell and GM made vents in 17 days, and they're making PP in America. And he's been saying, let's bring it back. And so China doesn't like that.
And our American distilleries started converting their facilities to make hand sanitizer.
Right. We can do whatever we want to in this country. We have a free hand.
But then, you go back to 2010, and, Hillary Clinton said it was frightening about what China did to Japan. And then this guy who's a Democrat from Massachusetts, Markey, he came out and said that, look, we can't be dependent upon China, and because it's very troubling.
Right.
But he's one of the proponents with Biden and Sanders.
So now he's on the opposite side of where he was in 2010.
It doesn't worry him about the fact that we're trading our where we're independent.
On dependence on China.
Yeah, so if we go to renewable energy, we're going to be dependent upon China for our energy.
But you know what the environmentalists are saying? They want a cleaner environment, but they're not getting rid of China. China's going to continue to back their system for gold.
It's a lot of lip service.
Yeah.
And in so many ways, this is business as usual. It's a terribly different time.
Yeah.
I mean, we have never been more dependent on a single country for so much critical
But it's been happening. Bush did nothing about it. It started so much, it seems, under Bill Clinton. Then you got Bush came in and did nothing to stop it. And then Obama and Biden made it worse. And I want people to remember, being a black person, he was the one who said in 1994, I don't want my daughters going to school with those predators. And then with that criminal act.
That's right.
And then when Obama first became president nominee, he said, wow, we finally got a clean one. And if you go to an Indian 7-Eleven, you're going to have to talk to somebody with an Indian accent. And everything I say, Google it. Don't listen to CNN, MSNBC, or Fox right now. Google it for yourself, because I listen to all three. Yep. And but anyway, back to Joe Biden.
But look at the economic impact. The economic impact of this will be to increase the cost of electricity. And when you increase the cost of electricity, who does that hurt? That hurts
everybody.
The wealthy. It doesn't hurt the wealthy. It hurts the average Joe.
The middle class and lower income people. Okay, and then you're talking about
just like defunding the police hurts.
And then you talk about the environmental impact. These people who live in rural areas, they don't want those wind turbines and those high energy transmission lines.
Yeah, because you have to bring the transmission lines too. I actually have family in West Texas. In fact, we watched the expansion of we saw the first windmill go up, and then now there's
They don't
hundreds.
like it?
No, it's an eyesore.
350.
When I drive from LA to San Diego, I see it. I thought it was pretty, all the windmills.
It's fine to visit, but you want to live there.
Yeah.
There's 350 megawatts of electricity, and
in the windmills.
No, in the lines, and there's a line that's going through. I think it's Nebraska, and they call it the R line, and a federal judge blocked the development of that. It's going to be 225 miles, and it's going to be, I think, 345 megawatts of power going through those lines, you know, and
Now, is that for Democrats want that or Republicans want that? Who wants
there's just going to be, well,
The way you sell it, though, everybody would want it if you sell it right.
But in reality, who's selling it now? Who wants it now?
Biden's selling it.
Biden.
Because if he does that, we're going to have a lot of these wind turbine farms or sites.
And then you got to get the power from the turbine, which is enormous power. And when you put a house or a structure, or actually the houses are there, and you put the lines over them, you get into electromagnetic interference. This is a form of radiation. There's a lot of debate over it, but increasing number of people believe diseases, all kinds of disorders are caused by these fields you're constantly.
So they're talking about fracking and how bad that is, which we talked about on the last show, which is one reason we're independent, which is to a lot of people is not that bad.
Now, it costs more to put them underground.
But I want to ask you about the Dakota pipelines, you all, and everything that they stopped, the pipelines they stopped last week.
These transmission lines
are worse, right?
Are worse, yeah.
But you hear everybody, environmental, we want to stop the pipelines.
Well, look.
What about the electromagnetic radiation pipeline?
Nobody's talking about that. I never knew anything about it until you experts come on here.
Yeah, well, look at this, though. Who's one of the major proponents with Biden?
Bernie Sanders, he's running his task force now.
Okay, well, how many wind turbines do you have being developed in Vermont, which is where he's from?
Right, he's an independent from Vermont.
0.
That's right.
So that's how much the people in Vermont want wind turbines.
Where are they being developed? Anywhere in America or only China?
West Texas, and the what they call the Tornado Alley, but a lot of that's in Texas right now. Most of it.
But most of the people in the country, the rural people live in the rural areas, don't want this. They don't want it.
You can't bring it to the cities.
Well, you got to bring it to the cities, but they don't want it.
I mean, those windmill things, you need a lot of land for them, don't you?
It sounds good. It fits this renewable narrative. But there is a cost to this, human cost to this, both the aesthetics that are destroyed by a lot of people who believe that. As Peter says, the electromagnetic interference and the radiation that could come off of that. And so there are ways, look, I have to say, there are ways to build this, but it's going to be at a much higher cost than proposing.
And there's no way we can do all this in 10 years.
If you're going to do it right, it's got way more cost.
Yeah, we're in Texaco and Exxon. They ought to be having campaigns out there talking about what we're talking about with ads and infomercials.
Actually, some of these companies are investing in it.
They're investing into windmills?
Some of R&D stuff. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah. Well, let's look at California, because California is the state that has led in this renewable energy campaign. Okay? All right. Now, they have the highest cost of utilities in the country, pretty much. There's not too many places.
Highest cost of everything in the country.
Okay, all right. And look at Los Angeles Board of Supervisors unanimously approved to ban wind turbines. Okay? San Bernardino County, which is the largest county in the country, banned them in rural areas. Humboldt County.
But they have some in San Bernardino, I think I've seen before, huh?
Well, they don't have many more.
Yeah.
I mean,
expansion efforts. There's a lot of local on the ground political.
What they didn't know when they first started it, people are finding out now the problems with windmill energy.
So the government can come in under eminent domain.
Well,
they can or can't? They can, right? Eminent domain, they can come in, right?
Let me tell you, this is something that kind of slipped under the radar. Governor Cuomo in New York, he put into one of his budget bills that his appointees could ignore local ordinances and put these turbine farms in.
You know, he invested in New York back when Obama did. The next year he invested in a solar company too out of the taxpayers' money, and that company went bankrupt also when he was supposed to be investing in ventilators for the hospital system. You remember that?
Yeah. But anyway, so I mean, it's but you know, it's being opposed by people in rural areas. They don't want it. You know, so
who know something about it, huh?
Well, so I mean, you know, that's going to be another area of conflict with Biden's plan because.
But you all, if he, you know, okay, Bernie's a socialist. We know that he's an independent, but he's a democratic social, whatever that means. He honeymooned in Russia. I know that, and he's been talking socialism his entire life as a politician, probably before that. So, what do you think how that's going to affect finances if we become more like a Venezuela here or something? The finance of people. Jobs, people.
Well, I think the middle class is going to
Wiped out?
see their standard of living go down.
There's so
I mean,
many attacks on the middle class.
It really is.
And this is not just Biden, to be fair, okay? But this is another cog in the wheel. It looks like on the surface, you've got three parts of this plan. Eliminating capital gains, the step up in capital gains.
Now, how does that work, Jerry?
Increasing the tax, nearly doubling it.
The tax on people.
The tax on
But that's on the wealthy people.
It is. But
People making $100,000 don't have to worry, which is a nice income.
When you tax the wealthy and you tax these corporations, we have discovered, right? Most
Job
people
killers.
discovered it will filter down. Companies
Just like
take
Reagan
it on,
said.
They bake
Right.
it into the price of goods.
I tell
It's
people,
passed
Medicaid
on.
people are not giving people jobs.
Well,
Or people making $10,000.
But look, all of us have, well, most of us have a utility bill to pay, right? Look at California again. I think California is a place we need to look at because they've been the state that has been most aggressive about renewable energy, okay? The residential consumer in California from April of last year to April of this year had a 13.4% increase in their bill.
I'm going to talk to my aunt about that tonight. And she's in LA. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, 13.4.
So it might be go up 40% if this happens, huh?
Well, I mean, but you think
It's going to be an exponential rise.
It's going to be an exponential rise, but we all have a utility bill. And who's that going to impact more? Well, it's going to impact the lower income more. I mean, the people that make $400,000 a year, if their utility bill goes up 13.4%, they're not going to like it, but they're just going to pay it because they have the disposal.
Don't you think
So
if it...
where this is headed, okay, and to your point, you said, couldn't we become like Venezuela?
No, I said,
Become
yeah, with
like
this.
Cuba? Because they
I'm
have,
not-
because of these problems.
Right.
Now the government.
I do a show with a Cuban and a Venezuelan who were there when it happened last week.
So this is what that a lot of people believe, and I have talked to a lot of independents, fair amount of Republicans, less Democrats believe this, but it doesn't matter. It's just a matter of fact. When you get a government with a heavy progressive tax, which is what we have, that has actually more in common with a Marxist plan. You shall have a heavy progressive tax. And
Now
when
you're saying Marxism and socialism are pretty much the same?
they're very similar, but this is the part I'm trying to make.
I just argued
The
with somebody on
progressive tax. When you have a progressive tax and you have a problem where you spend more than you bring in by trillions a year and you keep borrowing it, the part that no one's talking about a lot of is the fact of the taxes have to go up astronomically.
But aren't we
But not
doing
for
that
this.
right now, you all? Even with Donald Trump created the greatest economy we've ever had in America for
Since-
blacks,
probably since Reagan.
for Hispanics, for women, for Asians, for everybody.
Yeah.
And I was talking, in fact, when I got my nails done, and I have to say this, Wendy at Invo Nails on Perkins Road did my nails. I think you like them, the girls I think will, and the ladies, right? All of us are girls. But she's from Vietnam, and she was talking about how they love Trump because they have lived in Vietnam. And she said, I love America, but they even like Trump.
Yeah.
She said they have, where you can't have any freedom. She said, if I say anything about the government over there, they're going to put you in jail. Yeah. People don't realize how free we are here. And this is the only place in the world like this, pretty much.
A lot of freedoms are under attack. for a
That's
lot of
right.
reasons.
We talked about that in the last show.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that worries me the most about what's going on right now is very similar to the situation. In India at one time, they had a problem with an epidemic of cobras.
Yeah.
Of what?
Cobras.
Cobra snakes.
Snakes,
Uh-huh.
okay. So the government said, well, we'll take care of that. We'll put a bounty on cobras. So people would go out and kill cobras and the government would pay them for them, okay? So then some people got really smart and they said, well, we'll just breed the cobras.
Get paid a lot of money and take them into the government.
Take them into the government.
That's an entrepreneur, isn't it?
That's an entrepreneur, okay? So they started doing that, but then the government said, well, we still get a lot of snakes here. What's going on? And they figured out what was going on. So they said, well, we got to cut this out, okay?
Yeah.
So the government in India stopped paying for the bounty on the cobras. Well, now these breeders had all these cobras, and they didn't know what to do with them, so they just turned them loose
Oh, my God.
into the wild.
So the government helped create the problem by not thinking it through.
Well, what do you think we're doing with this stimulus? When we give people $600 extra a week not to work plus their unemployment, I tried to hire some people. They said, well, I'm not coming back and work till this is over, and now they're trying to extend it.
Yeah.
Why?
But you see the similarity.
Yes.
So then
it cripples your ability.
So then, then India, all these extra cobras were out there breeding, creating more
cobras.
and they had more problems.
Did they ever get rid of them?
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is, pumping all this money into the economy is like letting those cobras loose. And you have this cobra.
Especially when you have regulations to give people not working money. It becomes a socialistic society. I'm paying you to sit at home.
Yeah. What did Reagan say? He said, what is it, the 10 or 12, 14 most terrifying words that anybody should ever hear in their life. I'm here from the government, and I'm here to help.
Oh, yeah, because it ain't true.
It's going to cause more problems. So there's some things people need to be doing.
Yeah.
I don't care who wins this election, folks. I don't care who wins. I mean, I care, but I care about the outcome. It doesn't matter who wins. Their taxes are going to go up. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Yeah,
but from what you're saying, if Biden wins, we're going to lose all these jobs. And you should care, right? We should care. We should care who wins this election, I think.
But I care more about the outcomes. I care about better tax outcomes.
If I ain't making any money, I'm paying no taxes anyway.
Better advice.
Jerry.
Yes, better advice outcomes. That's who I care about. So I care about the policy more than I care about the mouthpiece, right?
But if Bernie Sanders is behind it, we know where they want to go, to the Green New Deal. That is their strategy, right?
Yeah. Well, and Biden's moving to the left.
He's way to the left. Bernie Sanders is over his task force.
Yeah.
So what's not
and AOC over the climate control.
What's not being talked about so much, which is going to have to be talked about, is that in 2026 to 2030, somewhere in that range, Medicare runs out of money and starts slashing benefits, not 5 or 10, 20 and 30%. The only way to fix it is with a huge tax to the payroll or somewhere. The second is Social Security. On the Social Security statement, if you're getting a Social Security statement, get it out and look. It says in fine print, we're going to reduce your benefits by 21% in 2035. They're going to raise that to 2030. So unless you are prepared for that, they're going to raise your taxes no matter what. I don't care who's in office, Republican, Democrat.
Yeah, but at least we'll be making more money if Trump can get back to doing what he was doing, removing regulations, giving businesses opportunity to.
And the tax increases that Biden, and he and I talk a lot about this.
Yeah.
The tax increases he's proposing looks like it's only on the wealthy, 400,000 and up.
But it's going to trickle down to some more people.
And the corporations, raising the corporate tax rate 20%, which is a massive jump back to the old tax rates. That will affect lower job income, and it will destroy jobs. We agree on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very concerned about it.
Me too. What's our exit strategy? Pete and I have talked about this after 9/11. We talked about maybe we should leave America before, and you and I are talking about it now too.
I think we have gas left in the tank, so we're going to have to get real about what we
So would you rather see Trump be able to bring this economy back as he did by all his...
I think there's better chance of that. And let's don't forget...
What about you, Pete, being a Democrat?
Spent more years as a Democrat than he did as a Republican.
Well, he's really an independent.
And so did Reagan for a lot of years.
Yeah. So, well, he was in liberal LA. What else can he be?
What their current affiliation maybe has less than the point.
Who would you rather see?
Well, I think...
From an American job standpoint.
I think Trump has done an excellent job with the economy. I mean, if you really look at the facts, don't listen.
Get away from the politics.
Yeah, get away from politics. Looks at the facts. The economy is much stronger today than it was when he came in. Now, this COVID crisis has put everything.
Well, we know where it came from too, right?
Yeah, well, China.
Wuhan, China.
Yeah.
Bye-bye from Dianne Andrews in Black and White.